Hi, in this video we're going to be looking at some sample questions and answers for part 3 of the IELTS speaking test. The topic of the questions that I've chosen is creating a nice home. Here the topic seems a little bit random and strange for part 3, but of course you don't know what the topic's going to be when you go into the test, and you've got to be ready to expect anything. These questions that we're looking at here have actually come from one of the Cambridge series, which are made by the same people who make the actual test, and they're pretty reliable that, you're going to get some similar looking kinds of questions when you take the test. Now, we'll have a look at the 2 questions I've chosen and think about what the questions are actually asking, and you can have a think about how you might answer these questions. Then after that, we'll look at the sample answers, and then finally I'll give a short analysis of, why these answers are really high-level answers, the type of answers that a person who's going to get around band 9 would give in the IELTS test. So, first of all, let's have a look at these 2 questions. The first one here, you can see it says, why do some people buy lots of things for their home? So you can see there, not the most complex question there. It's a why question, so it's asking you to give reasons for something. And here, it's reasons that people buy things for their home, or lots of things for their home. So you can see it fits the topic of creating a nice home. And it's asking for your opinion, which is what these part 3 questions usually do. It's asking you what you think about something. So you've got to remember here, there is no right or wrong answer. There's just good answers that are clear and explain your opinion so that the examiner can understand you. Or there's bad answers that are really unclear and the examiner can't really follow what you're saying or what your opinion is. Now you'll see when we look at the sample answers for this, we will be kind of using a nice logical structure to answer this type of question. But let's look at the second question before we look at these answers. So the second question here, again, you can see it begins with why, but why don't some people care about how their home looks? So this question, again, a similar kind of length, not the longest question there. And again, it begins with why, but not why do, but why don't. So it's slightly different. And also some people might get confused because we can see the word how in the same question. Why don't some people care about how their home looks? So again, really, we're looking for you to give your opinion and give reasons why, some people don't really care about their home that much. Whereas some people do. But we've got to give reasons why some people don't really care about the way their home looks and explain that nice and clearly. So there we go. Those are the 2 questions. Maybe already you've had a think about how you might approach these questions and answer them. But what I want to do is give you an example answer for both of these questions. And afterwards, we'll have a bit of an analysis of why they're really good answers. So if we go back to that first question, which was, why do some people buy lots of things for their home? I think some people get a lot of stuff to put in their home because they want it to look nice and feel more comfortable to live in. If people have things in their home that they like, they'll enjoy spending time at home and maybe even invite people over more often. For example, I recently bought a new dining room table and I've had more friends round for dinner since then. So that's the answer to the first question. Let's move on and look at the second question and the answer to that. If you remember, the question was, why don't some people care about how their home looks? They probably have other things they want to spend money on that they feel are more important. different people prioritize differently, and therefore some people would rather use their money for other things. I've got a friend who likes to buy expensive cars. His home doesn't look that great, but his car does. So there we go. You can see those are the two sample answers there, and they should have been pretty clear and easy to understand. In fact, both answers do quite a similar thing. They're using a similar structure to answer this part 3 style question. What they're doing is giving a nice, clear, direct answer first. Directly answering the question. A pretty simple thing to do. Both of them are doing it in a slightly different way, and we can look at that in more detail in a minute. But that's really what they're doing first. They're giving a clear, direct answer. And then after that, they're just going on to explain a bit more. So they're giving a reason for that opinion, which is what we have to do most of the time when we're giving our opinion clearly, is giving reasons, especially when it's a why question. So we've done that in both of these answers, gone on to that second step of giving a reason. We've got to do this really in part 3 of the IELTS speaking test. They're expecting you to go into a bit more detail than just giving a direct answer. But you can see in both of these answers, that's not the final step. There's another step that we take, and that is giving an example. In both of these answers, we've given a nice clear example to support our opinion. Now, let's have a look in a bit more detail here. So if you remember that first question, why do some people buy lots of things for their home? In the first sentence, you can see here, we're just giving a direct answer. You can see we have paraphrased the question a bit. Now, you don't have to worry too much about trying to do this, but if you are looking for those really high scores, it's something the examiner will be listening out for. So you can see here, I've said, I think some people get a lot of stuff. Well, we've kind of paraphrased buy lots of things from the question to get a lot of stuff. And then to put in their home rather than for their home. So you can see how, well, we're starting off the answer by really using the question in our answer, but we paraphrased a little bit. Like I said, these are kind of band 9 level answers, so we're going to have to show off that skill of paraphrasing. But then straight away in that first sentence, we've said why. After the word because. Because they want it to look nice and feel more comfortable to live in. So there we go. I mean, that's the reason. They want it to look nice and feel more comfortable to live in. You can see I've linked my ideas in that sentence by using the pronoun they to refer to the people that I mentioned in the beginning of the sentence. Something quite nice that can improve the cohesion and coherence of the answer. And then in the second sentence, you can see there, we've just explained a bit more. We've gone into more detail. And here we've actually used a conditional sentence using the word if to begin that sentence. So if people have things in their home that they like, they'll enjoy spending time at home and maybe even invite people over more often. So just a nice clear sentence explaining, well, why they want their home to look nice and feel comfortable. Well, they'll enjoy spending time in that home and maybe invite people over. Now, the only thing here vocabulary-wise that might be a bit challenging for some people to understand there is to invite people over, which just means invite people to your home. It's just a bit more kind of idiomatic vocabulary there that we can use to impress the examiner a bit. But you can see there, nothing too complex. Then the final sentence, we've just given an example to support our answer. And you can see we've done that by beginning the sentence with for example. You don't always have to do that, but it's a good way to show that you're going to give an example. And then I recently bought a new dining room table. So you can see there's this specific example of buying something for your home. And you can see here how we've managed to kind of mix up tenses a little bit in that, well, the beginning of the answer was in the present simple, but because here it's a specific example, we're using the past tense. I bought. Not I buy, but I bought. I recently bought a new dining room table. But we're not finished there. You can see in the second half of that sentence, and I've had more friends round for dinner since then. So there you can see we've actually used a perfect tense there because we're talking about from the past until now. So the present perfect. So we're showing off a little bit here, but not really worrying too much about thinking about the grammar when we're speaking. But you can see naturally there, we've used a mixture of different tenses in one answer. Also, you can see vocabulary wise, we've got to have friends round. Now, to have friends round means to, have some friends visiting your home. Again, a nice bit of idiomatic vocabulary that's going to impress the examiner. Nothing too complex there, though. You can see the answer's just gone through 3 steps, giving a direct answer, explaining your answer a bit, and then giving an example. If we go to the second answer, to the second question, you'll see that I've done a very similar thing, but in a slightly different way. That question, if you remember, was why don't some people care about how their home looks? You can see in the first sentence of the answer, we've gone straight into the reason. They probably have other things they want to spend money on that they feel are more important. So really there, we haven't used the question as much in our answer. We've gone straight into the answer and giving a reason. This is another way of giving a direct answer. You don't always have to use the question in your answer. There's different ways of answering these questions, but of course we have used the same technique where we've used this kind of first step where we're giving that direct answer. But again, nothing really too complex there. The second sentence you can see here is just explaining a bit more, giving a reason. Different people prioritize differently. Straight away, we've kind of focused there. We've made it clear. We've used a word there, prioritize, which, well, means to put importance on one thing more than another thing. Okay, to prioritize. And well, we're saying here different people prioritize differently in a different way, using 2 forms of the word different there, different and differently, very close to each other, showing some flexibility with the use of vocabulary there as well. Then we haven't finished. We've continued that sentence and said, and therefore some people would rather use their money for other things. So we're just explaining it a bit more, right? Some people kind of prioritize things that aren't about their home, maybe about other things that they want to spend their money on. But then after that, we haven't finished. We've got a third step that we've gone to here by giving an example again. We've gone straight into the example again, though. We haven't kind of used a phrase like, for example. I don't think it's good to overuse these phrases. You don't want to use the same phrase for every answer. So I wanted to show you another way where we can just go straight into the example. I've got a friend who likes to buy expensive cars. So he's prioritizing cars. This is an example of someone who cares about cars more than they care about their home. In fact, we've got the final sentence there, which is still continuing with this example. His home doesn't look that great, but his car does. So there we go. We're just saying, well, yes, this person I'm giving an example of, they don't care that much about the way their home looks, but they do care about their car. We're linking those 2 sentences, though, by using the pronoun his to refer to, well, the friend. But there we go. You can see we're not going on too long with these answers. Really, they're just going through 3 steps. Doesn't necessarily mean you're just using 3 sentences, right? One of those steps may take more than just 1 sentence. In fact, you saw in the final answer there, the example had 2 sentences. So it was a 4-sentence answer in total. The first answer was just a 3-sentence answer. Really, we don't have to worry about the number of sentences. We just need to think about going through these steps to make our answer clear. Now, there are different structures you can use for different types of questions and different answers that you want to get. This isn't the only structure you can use. There are plenty more that we have looked at actually in previous videos, and I'm sure we'll look at again in future videos. But hopefully this was nice for you to see that really in part 3, it's not asking too much of you. Don't be intimidated by this part of the test. It's just important that you listen to the question carefully, understand the question, and give a nice clear answer that fully answers that question, and nothing more than that. I feel like a lot of the time when I have students who are answering questions like this in part 3 of the IELTS speaking test, they'll often go on too long and start going off topic, and this is something you don't want to do. By using this three-step structure that I showed you in this video, you should be able to kind of keep focus and give a good answer. But there we go. Hopefully this was useful for you, and if it was, then do remember to click the like button, and if you haven't already, remember to click the subscribe button so you don't miss out on any similar videos in the future. But there we go. Thanks for watching, guys, and see you in the next video.